Congratulations. You're going to be a mom." Hearing the words, Amanda's eyes glistened. Disbelief and wonder rose like a tide. There was a new life inside her. After 3 long years, she and Liam were finally going to have a baby. Maybe this time, her mother-in-law would accept her. Maybe Liam wouldn't have to stand between them anymore. Amanda's hand flew to her stomach. She caressed it protective already. Tears of joy tumbled down her cheeks, making her face glow. The euphoria swept her up. She laughed, then clamped a hand over her mouth, breathing through the rush. After a moment, she wiped her eyes, thanked the doctor, and headed out. Amanda couldn't wait a second to tell Liam. Just picturing his reaction made her whole face beam. Finally, something that will make him smile. "All he does is frown," she murmured, palm circling her belly. No doubt. If there were a contest for frowning, he'd win without trying. Amanda slid into the driver's seat and chuckled, thinking of the first time she met him. A moment that felt like a dream. After her parents' death, she'd worked at a cafe to make ends meet. That's where she saw him. One glance, and it felt meant to be. Color returned to her world. The monotony that followed grief shifted, as if spring had come after a long, cold winter. One thing led to another, and here they were, having a baby. She started the car and drove home, trying to keep her happiness contained. The joy was too big to spoil. How should I tell him? Should I tease him a bit? She mused, grinning to herself. Upon reaching home, she got out and hurried inside, careful, quiet, guarding the surprise. She took a breath to steady herself, then stepped into the living room and stopped. "Helena," she stammered. Her mother-in-law sat on the sofa, sipping tea as if she owned the air. Amanda's gaze darted around, searching for Liam. "Please let him be home. Don't leave me alone with her." "Grown bold, have you?" Helena took a slow sip and slid a sharp glance over her. Disgust, a look Amanda could never ignore. Helena rose from her comfortable seat. "Where have you been? And what happened to the chores I gave you?" The words came edged in disdain. Amanda swallowed and kept her eyes down. Helena never liked her. No, she despised her. Poor, timid, weak. A girl with no idea how the rich lived. Cinderella had married the Prince Charming of Ridgeville, but the Queen never approved. Amanda got the prince. No one warned her about the happily ever after. Helena sneered as she walked closer, mockery written across her face. Amanda shrank back without thinking. I'm sorry, ma'am." Even Amanda's quiet presence felt like an eyesore to Helena. How could someone so beggarly land her perfect son? Everything she wasn't. And worse, she'd seemed barren. Women like Amanda didn't deserve him, and Helena would make sure she left. Helena's gaze skimmed Amanda head to toe. Then she tilted her chin, looking for Liam. Amanda risked a quick glance and gave a small nod. "He's in the bedroom. Go on." The sudden softness in Helena's voice felt wrong. Amanda hesitated, then shook it off. "Focus. Tell Liam the news." She rushed upstairs, heart racing. If only she had turned back, she might have seen the cunning smile on Helena's lips. Helena's heels clicked on the stairs behind her. She wouldn't miss the show. Amanda grasped the doorknob. A muffled man's voice drifted through the wood. Then a woman's. Her hand froze. Her eyes went wide. Her fingers trembled. Number. She must have misheard. Liam would never. Helena drew up beside her, voice airy and cruel. "What? Scared now? Open the door. Or shall I help you? I told you to leave before you embarrassed yourself, didn't I?" She scoffed. Amanda bit her lower lip and fought to shut out the words. They sliced anyway. Tears burned. But she shook her head. "Number, trust him. He loves you. He would never betray you." She gathered herself and threw the door open. Light, bed, skin, everything at once. And she was wrong. The man she'd never doubted lay tangled with a stranger in their bed. Amanda stumbled back, breath gone. Her mind screamed no while her heart clung to disbelief. Liam rose, turned away, pulled on a white shirt, calm, efficient, as if nothing was wrong. "What are you doing here?" he asked, frowning, annoyance roughening his voice. Amanda stepped toward him, begging for sense, for truth. It's not true, right? This is a misunderstanding. Her fingers reached for his. Her eyes pleaded. He wouldn't meet her gaze. He shook off her hand with a flick of disgust, tugged open a drawer, and said nothing. A heartbeat later, he flung a stack of glossy photos at her. They slapped her cheek and scattered across the floor. Amanda stared. Images of herself, naked beside a stranger in a bed. The room tilted. This. The word barely left her lips. They're fake, they have to be. Yes. Your photos with your lover, Liam said coldly. You found another man. I found my soulmate. Let's end this and go our separate ways. Bitter tears rolled down her cheeks. The man before her felt like a stranger. Her husband had been gentle, caring. He'd said he trusted her more than himself. And now he believed these lies without even asking. She searched his face for anything doubt, pain, a flicker of love, nothing. It's not true, you know that. How could you? Her voice cracked and fell. 3 years of marriage. She had never doubted him. Even now, she wanted to believe. She'd thought their love was eternal. But no. A few doctored photos. And he didn't even ask if they were real. Did he ever love her at all? See. Helena's voice cut in smug and satisfied. I told you, son. She was never good for you. Now we've seen her true face. Helena moved to Liam's side, arms crossed, eyes hard on Amanda. Son, it's time to divorce her. You found a better woman. The woman from the bed slid to Liam's other side and took his arm, smirking down at Amanda. Amanda stared at the three of them, her dream collapsing into a nightmare. He didn't trust her. He didn't even ask. She had one last hope. She wiped her tears, drew a breath, and lifted her chin. Liam, I'm pregnant. The words fell soft and bright. A silver bell in a storm. His face twisted. He looked at her stomach with raw disgust. No hatred. She pressed a hand to her belly. It ached. How could he? She needed no words. His expression said it all. He didn't want this child. He didn't want any part of them. You're pregnant. Helena's eyes flashed. She darted a glance from Amanda's belly to her face. Whose bastard are you carrying? Who knows how many men you've slept with? I'm sure it's not my son's. Amanda didn't answer Helena. She dug her nails into her palms and watched only him, waiting for the smallest crack in that cold mask. Nothing. A short, brittle laugh broke from her chest. It startled the room into silence. Have you gone mad? Helena snapped, edging closer to Liam as if Amanda might lash out. I am. Amanda shot back clear, loud, not the meek girl they knew. 3 years of silence snapped. For 3 years, I did everything you said. I apologized for mistakes I didn't make. She pointed straight at Helena. I took care of you both. I swallowed the insults about me, about my upbringing. I did it all. She scrubbed at her eyes and turned to Liam, hatred and hurt twisting together. And you believed some stupid photos and never asked me once. How could you be so cruel? And then you let your mother call it adultery over pictures. She waited. Even now, if he said it was a misunderstanding, she would believe him. Just a few words. Silence. Amanda cupped her belly, protective and fierce. Had he been pretending all along? Was she a fool? He's not a monster. Helena must have manipulated him. If he felt our baby, if he just felt Liam. She stepped closer, reaching to guide his hand to her stomach. He slapped her hand away, face curling with disgust. The last shard of hope shattered. Abort that baby, he said, voice cold as stone. What? Amanda felt her heart stop. The word abortion made the floor tilt under her. Blood drained from her face. Her legs went weak. She grabbed the doorframe, pale as a ghost. Her jade eyes went wide as she gasped for air. She couldn't believe the man in front of her was the one she loved. What happened to the Liam she knew? Patient, caring, loving. Her husband. Not only had he slept with a stranger in their bed, he wanted to end their child before she could protest, before she could even speak. He dragged her to the hospital. The pain was unbearable, unreal. Everything felt like a dream. At the hospital, they headed straight for the VIP wing. Amanda sat in a private room while her mother-in-law, Helena, kept watch. No chance to escape. Just as Amanda was plotting a way out, a familiar man stepped in. He gave Helena a polite bow, then walked to Amanda and handed her a file. She already knew what it was. Still, her hands shook as she accepted it. It wasn't a surprise, but her heart ached. Before she could open it, a nurse came in. "We're ready for the operation." Amanda stared into the void, imagining herself running. If she dared to jump up, sprint out that door, if only. "What are you thinking?" Helena's voice snapped her back. "If you try something stupid, it will only be a matter of time before you're ruined." Amanda bit her lower lip and nodded. She fought back the tears. She had no choice now. She looked down and brushed her belly. Maybe it was the last time she'd feel her baby. The tears broke free. "I'm sorry, baby. Mama couldn't protect you. I hope you choose a stronger mama next time." "Goodbye," she whispered, breaking down. "Amanda." The nurse called her name as she said goodbye. Amanda didn't respond. She couldn't move. Helena hissed, yanked her up, and shoved her toward the nurse. Like she was a criminal. A small sob escaped as she sat on the bed, waiting for the doctor who could arrive any minute. There was no way out. She despised herself. Useless. She couldn't protect her own blood. She couldn't even make her own choices. Tears blurred her eyes. She looked at her womb maybe for the last time. "I am sore. Cry, baby. I am sorry," she mumbled under her breath. Dr. Melody stepped in and saw the panic in Amanda's eyes. It wasn't rare for women from wealthy families to come for abortions. Sometimes by force, sometimes by shame. Usually Melody did her job and stayed out of it. Rich people's problems were a headache, but the collapse on Amanda's face felt different. The remorse was real. Melody sighed and sat beside the bed. "Are you sure you want this abortion?" She placed a warm hand over Amanda's. The touch split the tears in Amanda's eyes, but she said nothing. The fear was plain. Amanda bit her lip, silent. There was no point in talking. The doctor couldn't help, could she? "It's okay if you don't want it," Melody said softly. "I'll talk to your family." "No, don't tell them," Amanda blurted, grabbing her hand. "Please don't." "Why?" Melody asked, then softened, stroking her shoulder. Amanda cried out in helpless pain. She looked so young, too young for this. When the storm passed, Amanda looked up. "Thank you," she whispered, wiping her cheeks. "It's fine. Can you tell me why you don't want them to know?" Melody kept her voice low. Amanda hesitated, then told her everything. From start to end, it sounded like a twisted fairy tale. Melody's jaw tightened. Anger burned, but she swallowed it. Picking a fight with the rich had consequences. An idea sparked. A small, wicked smile touched her lips. She leaned in and shared the plan. Amanda flinched, afraid. This was her last chance. In the end, she nodded. She caressed her belly, lay back like Melody told her, and waited. Melody slipped out to gather what Amanda needed. As she walked out with Amanda's things, two women entered. Melody hid the bundle behind her, already guessing who they were. "You?" Helena moved to confront her. I'm the doctor who operated today," Melody said with a nervous little laugh. "Just came to check something for the paperwork." Helena seemed convinced. "Where is the patient then?" "Oh, she's gone. She left right after we finished. It's a minor procedure, so no hospital stay." Melody kept her tone easy. "Yeah, okay, whatever." Helena rolled her eyes and waved at the other woman. "Let's go." Before leaving, her gaze flicked to the table where the file had been. The divorce papers and the check were gone. She took it in and left without a word. Melody exhaled in relief as soon as she was clear. She rushed back to the theater to return Amanda's things. Amanda sat on the bed, biting her lip, trembling when Melody came back. "There." Melody placed the items in her hands. Amanda's fingers shook as she took them. Every scene, from their first meeting to now, replayed in her mind. Tears brimmed. So this was the happily ever after they promised her. Inside the file was a blank check. To buy her silence. Or her pain she couldn't tell. She knew only this. She didn't need it. She didn't need anything from him. This baby was hers. Only hers. He had nothing to do with it, and he never would. She took the pen and signed the papers, then scrubbed her tears away. She had to change. Not for herself, but for her baby. As planned, she left the hospital with the doctor. A few months later, Amanda leaned on the window frame, soaking in the warm sun, when the door opened. She wasn't surprised. She already knew who it was. After the hospital, she had nowhere to go. Melody stepped up again, offering a hand, a home, a place to carry the baby who was 6 months along now. It's nice weather. You should go out, Melody said, stepping into the room. Amanda hesitated. Fear pricked her chest. If someone from Liam's circle recognized her, they'd tell him she was still pregnant. He'd try again, and put Melody at risk. Melody read her. Vitamin D is good for babies, she said lightly, and you can wear a mask. She held one up and placed it in Amanda's hand. At last, Amanda yielded. She gave Melody a small smile, slipped on the mask, and headed out. She didn't like going out, but a stroll would be good for the baby. She turned the corner, admiring the gold leaves when someone bumped into her. She didn't look up until he spoke. She knew that voice. How could she forget? She lifted her gaze to a blonde man. Even through the mask, his eyes said he recognized her too. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Brother, she whispered. Amanda! The man stared, then glanced at her belly. He gasped and pulled her into a warm, fierce hug. Where have you been? I missed you so much. She sobbed. I know, I left so suddenly. But how are you pregnant? What happened while I was gone? He eased back, studying her tear-streaked face. She didn't answer. She shook her head and asked where he'd been. From her deflection, Aaron knew something was wrong. He wrapped her in his arms and swore. This time, he wouldn't let his sister suffer again. 3 years later, our real estate corporation, a slim, elegant woman stepped out of the elevator, heels soft on the marble. She smoothed her office dress, knocked once, then slipped inside. A man lay asleep on the couch. At the knock, he stirred, grunted, and stretched before looking up at Amanda. She kept her eyes lowered and gave a small bow. Good morning, sir. Good morning. And stop calling me, sir. He rolled his eyes and took a sip from the coffee she'd brought. She nodded at his request, but her hands had already moved on, tidying the mess of files on the coffee table, aligning stacks with quiet efficiency. I forgot to tell you, we're flying to Ridgeville tonight. A week or so. He set the cup down and said it like a weather report. Amanda's hand paused mid-reach. Ridgeville. A flicker of old pain. Her fingers trembled, then stilled. She tucked it away and kept her voice even. Why suddenly? She glanced up, brow raised. Though even she wasn't sure she wanted to go back to that hellhole. Ray's eyebrow shot up in return. They both knew he'd been pushing hard on the acquisition, reason enough for him to crash on the office couch these past nights. Realizing it, she swallowed the question and silently scolded herself for stepping out of line. Avoiding Ray's searching eyes, she turned toward the door, making her answer clear without inviting more conversation. I'll prepare everything, sir. With that, she stepped out. Ray opened his mouth to correct her, then let it go. Why does she never listen to me? He muttered under his breath, watching her walk away. Night fell fast. Before Amanda could talk herself out of it, she was in Ridgeville, city lights smearing the car windows. Sir, I've booked rooms at the Skylight Hotel. You can rest today, she said, scanning his schedule on her tablet. Ray shook his head, voice half a groan. Stop calling me sir. Call me Ray, he softened. Also tonight, we're meeting someone for dinner. He dipped his head, he was tall, and caught her gaze with a small smile. Get ready, okay? He walked ahead, easy and unbothered. Amanda followed, meaning to ask who. His answer was simple, tossed over his shoulder. An old friend. Her steps faltered for a heartbeat. Meeting anyone in Ridgeville made her skin crawl. But she nodded. The past never brought her anything good. At the restaurant, Ray glanced at her glass. Nervous? Caught mid-sip, she blinked and shook her head. He chuckled, unconvinced. "I'm sorry for making you wait." A male voice approached the table. Amanda rose to greet, then met a familiar pair of eyes. Number out of everyone. Him. Why? Her thoughts scattered. The hum of the room faded to a dull rush. Ray, oblivious, lit up. "Here you are. Amanda, this is my childhood frenemy, Liam." Neither Amanda nor Liam heard the end of that. A woman at Liam's side slid her hand tighter through his arm. Amanda tore her gaze away first. She nodded at Ray's introduction and slipped on professionalism like armor. "Please, have a seat, sir," she said, indicating the chairs without looking at Liam. "Liam, you didn't introduce me. Never mind, I'll do it myself." The woman's tone was sugary as she hugged his arm, staking her claim. Amanda finally looked and wasn't surprised. The same woman from that day, so their love held. Old memories rose, sharp and unwelcome. Amanda's face cooled, the expression draining clean. "Hello, I'm Liam's girlfriend, Eve." Sweet smile, sharp eyes meant for Amanda. The word girlfriend rang in Amanda's head, like a struck bell. She kept her breathing even, but pain threaded through anyway. "Number not here." "Excuse me, I need the bathroom," she said quietly, already stepping away. "Told you to stop drinking water," Ray called after, teasing. She offered a small smile and disappeared down the hall. In the bathroom, she braced both hands on the sink. Her breath came fast, shallow. "Number. You can't break. Not for him. He betrayed you. He tried to kill your baby. He slandered you. How could you still care?" She stared at herself in the mirror. "Don't cry. Don't you dare." Cold water splashed her face. One breath. Another. Her features smoothed back into calm. When she was steady, she pushed open the door and walked straight into Eve. "Why are you back here again?" Eve closed the distance with a slow smile. "Don't tell me you still want Liam after what you did to him 3 years ago." She shoved Amanda against the wall, voice dropping to a whisper. "Ran out of money, is that it? How much do you want?" Amanda said nothing. Silence held. Then a small, cool smile curved her lips. "Unfortunately, I have enough money not to introduce myself as someone's girlfriend." Color flared across Eve's cheeks. Amanda stepped to go around her, done with the bickering when Eve yanked her back by the wrist. "At least I'm legal, unlike you, trying to give birth to a bastard. Good thing it died before." The slap cracked the hallway. Eve staggered, hand flying to her cheek, eyes wide. "My child was not a bastard," Amanda said, gaze unwavering. "Amanda." Liam's voice cut in as he strode toward them. Both women looked his way. Eve peeled off first, dragging a sob into her voice as she clutched his arm. "Liam," she whimpered, a picture of wounded innocence. "It doesn't matter what happened in the past, but how could you take it out on Eve like that?" Liam snapped at Amanda, fury flaring, too angry to register the wreckage on her face. "What's wrong?" Ray appeared at the end of the hall, frowning at the raised voices. At the sound of him, Liam pulled himself together, smoothing his expression. "Nothing," he lied easily. "Just a misunderstanding between the ladies. It's been cleared up." He shot Amanda a warning glare. Ray looked from one to the other. He knew Amanda wasn't the type to start trouble, but he let it pass with a slow nod. "It's late. We should go," Liam added, already steering Eve away without another word. Amanda stood frozen a heartbeat longer. Disgust rose like bile. Still the same. He never lets me speak. Always ready to believe anyone else. Her eyes stung, but what filled them wasn't grief anymore. It was hate sharpening to a point as she watched him disappear. "You okay? You sure it was nothing?" Ray asked quietly, reading the storm in her face. Amanda swallowed and nodded. She pulled a smile into place. She wanted the past to stay buried, but the heat in her eyes said what her lips refused, and Ray, for once, said nothing at all. Once they reached the house, Helena rushed to greet them. Unlike Eve, Liam had no patience for small talk. He went straight upstairs, leaving Eve and Helena alone. "How was it? Did you two enjoy it?" Helena asked, taking Eve's hands. She paused, noticing the redness on Eve's cheeks. Flustered, she called for ice and settled Eve onto the sofa. She is back! Amanda, the witch! Eve burst out. Helena blinked, mind racing back to what happened 3 years ago. Then her eyes hardened. I'll make sure she leaves this place, just like 3 years ago, Helena said, voice steady. Eve stood, leaning in. What are you planning? Helena smirked and leaned close, whispering the plan in her ear, pausing now and then, that smile never leaving her face. Next morning, Amanda was getting ready for work when a knock sounded at the door. She didn't know who it was, but she opened it anyway and instantly regretted it. Looks like you're living well enough. Helena didn't wait for a reply. She pushed past and stepped inside. I am, if that's your concern, but what brought you here? Amanda kept her tone cold. Just looking at Helena made her blood simmer. Helena scoffed and sat on the sofa, studying her. The timid girl from 3 years ago gone. The one who used to shudder at her shadow was now standing firm, talking back. Annoying, but not why she was here. I know you didn't touch the money we offered back then. Maybe it wasn't enough. So you've come back for more. I'll get straight to the point. How much to return to wherever you've been? Helena asked, eyes never leaving Amanda's face. Amanda sneered but decided to play along. Let Helena taste her own medicine. She crossed her arms and sat opposite. Can you pay me enough? She asked, mocking. How much do you want? I knew you were a greedy bitch. I have to admit. You even fooled me, Helena thought, keeping her face smooth. Let's see, you don't have enough to pay me. Amanda stood, gesturing toward the door. The door swung wider. Someone else pushed in. How much do you want? Liam asked, that same cold gaze she remembered cutting through the room. Helena was startled for a heartbeat. Then her smirk widened. The more he saw Amanda, the more he'd hate her. Amanda's face went frosty heat, rising like a volcano about to erupt. But she held it down. I'm not sure how much, but you definitely can't afford it, she said, voice ice cold. Unlike before, there was no fear in her. Those eyes looked familiar, and yet nothing in them felt the same. He'd thought she wasn't after money, but he'd been wrong. You disgust me, Liam said. Oh, don't worry. It's mutual now. If you mother and son are done with your drama, please leave. Unlike you, I'm quite busy. Liam had no answer. He turned and walked out with Helena. After they left, Amanda drew a long breath. It had been harder than it looked. What hurt most was the man she'd loved and trusted. Did he ever really love her? If he had, he should have known what she wanted. She checked the clock late. She grabbed her things and rushed out. At the office, Ray was waiting. I'm sorry, I'm late, Amanda said, gasping for air. Finally, a blot on your legendary attendance, Ray teased, stepping forward with a glass of water. Amanda rolled her eyes and took it. Then she straightened, slipping into her routine. She set the glass down and ran through his schedule, meetings, calls, deadlines. By dusk, she finally stopped. She didn't love the work, but working herself numb was the only way to push the morning out of her head. She glanced out the window. The sun had already slipped away. She was deciding whether to dig up more work or go home when a knock sounded. Still here. Ray walked in and perched on the edge of her desk. Amanda smiled and nodded. How about dinner, since you're still here? Before she could refuse, he tugged her lightly to her feet and steered her out. In the restaurant parking lot, she spotted 2 familiar faces. Her mood soured instantly. I've got work at home, so I'll head out. You can relive old times with your friend, Amanda said, reaching for an excuse. Ray didn't catch the hint. Didn't even notice Liam. He ushered her inside, settled her into a seat, and waved a waiter over. Since it's not the office, we shouldn't hide our affair. No, Ray teased. Amanda couldn't help a chuckle. For 3 years, he'd been her boss. But outside the office, he'd been the best friend she could ask for. His jokes had gotten her through worse days. I think it's time we tell your wife about it. Even though she's our boss, Amanda said, sipping her water. The waiter, pouring wine, leaned in a bit too far. He overfilled the glass, flustered, stammered an apology, and fled. Amanda and Ray burst into laughter at his expression. Looks like I missed the fun. Liam's voice cut in from behind. Amanda's smile vanished. She'd seen them outside and prayed they'd leave. Bad luck. Liam. Ray stood, surprised, and pulled him into a quick hug. I had no idea you were here too, with Miss Eve. Liam gave a slight nod, eyes drawn to Amanda. His mother had forced him to take Eve to dinner, of all nights. And here was Amanda, laughing with Ray. Close enough to look happy. Why don't you join us? Ray offered. Liam didn't refuse. He sat right beside Amanda. Eve, annoyed, kept her face sweet for Ray. She turned to Amanda with a foul look, hatred sharpening her smile. Ray, if I didn't know you had a fiancé, I'd think you two were lovers. She flicked her eyes to Liam. He said nothing. He tried to hide it, but Eve noticed, and her heart pinched. Fine, if that's how it is, Amanda would pay. Amanda opened her mouth, but Ray pressed her hand under the table. Is that so? So you just assume people's relationships without knowing anything? Ray replied, polite but firm. Amanda bit back her giggles, looking down, trying to keep a straight face. Eve flushed with embarrassment but refused to yield. She was already in too deep. Really? Because this place is a famous couple's restaurant. Amanda kept her gaze on her fingers, not in the mood to spar. Ray saw her discomfort and moved. Oh, but for me, a restaurant is just a place to eat. Maybe some people only see what they want to see. Right, Eve? Amanda looked up at him. Ray gave her that same warm smile. Her eyes brightened. A silent thank you. He dipped a small nod, understood. Eve swallowed her anger and said nothing, glancing at Liam. He stayed silent. The food arrived. Eve stood suddenly, turning soft eyes toward Amanda, catching everyone off guard. I'm sorry about earlier. I went over the line. Let me pour you some wine. She lifted the bottle and accidentally spilled wine down Amanda's dress. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, Eve gasped, setting the bottle aside, feigning clumsiness. Ray shot up and hurried to Amanda. He was about to lash out when Amanda tugged his sleeve. Don't. It's fine. I'll clean up in the washroom, she said with a cool smile. Eve was the mayor's daughter. Making a scene would only cause trouble for Ray. She wouldn't let that happen. Ray held his tongue until Amanda was gone. Then he turned to Eve, eyes blazing. Why are you so immature? And don't deny it. I saw everything. I don't know what your problem with her is, but stop. If there's a next time, I won't sit idly. Eve's eyes filled. She looked to Liam for help. I think it was just a mistake. You're overreacting, Liam said at last, defending her. He didn't want to truth be told, but he hated hearing Ray defend Amanda. That should be him, not Ray. Then take care of your girlfriend, or I won't let it go. Even if you're my friend, Ray snapped, cutting Liam with a hard look. Why was Liam acting like this? Was he really so blind? Amanda returned, her dress still damp from blotting the stain. Ray's coat was around her shoulders before she could protest. I'll drive Amanda home. Have a good night, he said, and let her out. Liam watched them leave, his thoughts snagging on the way they moved together. He wanted to go after Amanda to ask. But no, not after what happened 3 years ago. He'd cut ties, shut it all down. Still, memories of better days pressed close. What are you thinking about? Eve asked softly. Nothing. Liam shook his head and managed to smile. Let's finish our dinner, he sat. Eve knew everything. She stayed quiet. They ate in silence. When they were done, he asked his driver to take her home. Eve hated it, but she didn't refuse, and her hatred for Amanda only grew. It was late when Liam returned home. Unexpectedly, his mother was still awake in the living room. Mom, what are you doing here? Liam asked, seeing Helena. Helena didn't answer, just patted the seat beside her. Liam sensed something serious, so he sat without another word. You know it's already 3 years. Helena finally spoke. Don't you think it's time you and Eve got married? Liam scowled. He wasn't in the mood for this, as if seeing Amanda and Ray together tonight wasn't enough. His mother picked now to talk. No matter how he tried, he couldn't shake the image of Amanda and Ray walking side by side. If not marriage, then at least get engaged, Helena said, softening her tone when she saw his expression. Mom, it's not the right time to talk about this. Let's discuss it another day. Good night. Liam rose and headed upstairs. On the landing, he saw Eve, but he didn't say a word. Eve opened her mouth to speak, but he was gone before a sound could leave her. She stood there, unsure what to do, then drifted downstairs. Mother, it's all because of that wretch. Since she came back, Liam isn't acting like before. It's all because of her. Eve burst into tears. Helena wrapped her arms around her, shushing her gently. Shh. Don't worry about her. I'll take care of her. You focus on Liam, comfort him. Helena murmured, already thinking how to make Amanda disappear from their lives. More than that, she needed to make sure Eve and Liam got married. Only then could she breathe easy. Eve was the mayor's only daughter. If they married, the business would surely flourish. But before Amanda, we need to meet your father, Helena said, studying Eve's face as the crying ebbed. When is he returning from his trip again? Next week. Next week it is, then. Helena's smile turned sharp, already planning. A few days later, after that night, Liam wasn't in his right mind. Whatever he did, he couldn't forget. In the end, just to see her again, he found himself at her apartment. He didn't even know how he got there. It just happened. Since he was already there, he headed toward her building. She was outside strolling in the gateway, phone pressed to her ear. Liam drew a slow breath, fighting to control his expression, and walked toward her. I miss you too. Mama will be back soon. Don't annoy Dada too much. Okay. Amanda smiled as she spoke into the phone. The words hit Liam like bullets. His world tilted. She had a child and another man. How could she do that to him? A child already. He clenched his fingers into a fist and waited, pulse thudding, until she ended the call. The second she lowered the phone, he grabbed her shoulder and yanked her to face him. Amanda stumbled, caught off guard. A scream rose, then died when she saw him. Her face cooled. She tried to pry his hand off. Let go. What do you think you're doing? She twisted against his grip, but Liam didn't seem to hear. The words from moments ago kept pounding in his head. Child. She had a child with another man. How could she do that to him? Who were you calling? Do you have a child with another man? Who is he? Liam forced the words out, anger pressed tight under his voice. Amanda froze, turning to stone at his questions. He knows I have a child. If he finds out he's the father, is that why he's acting like this? Number, he can't find out. He never can. What are you talking about? Let go of me, she jerked harder, but his grip only tightened as he pulled her closer. Who is the man you had a child with? Are you two married? Relief flickered through her. He didn't know. He thought it was someone else. Better to keep it that way. What right do you have to ask me that? Amanda scoffed, her voice cutting. He was with someone else and she hadn't asked. He wanted a divorce. He forced her to abort. He betrayed her. Yet he still thought he had the right to question her life. What? Liam faltered, the words dousing him like cold water. She wrenched her wrist free and met his gaze, unblinking. You have no right to ask me anything. We are nothing but strangers with a past. Get that straight in your head. My life has nothing to do with you. Before he could react, she turned and walked away. Liam stared after her, rooted to the spot. He'd only wanted to ask, but the words wouldn't come. He dragged a hand through his inky black hair, then sank into his car and drove off. Later, with a glass of vodka in his hand, Liam simmered. She'd killed their child without hesitation. Yet she had another with someone else. How could she? Did their child mean nothing to her? She killed ours, but she has someone else's. He scoffed, the phrase she'd thrown at him circling like a curse. Strangers from the past. Amanda sighed when Liam finally left. Weakness swept through her, as if someone had pulled the plug and drained every bit of energy. She still managed to shuffle back to her bedroom and sink onto the bed. The moment her head touched the pillow, the past rushed in. Images she'd fought for years to bury flared bright behind her eyes. Their love at first sight aunts, a magic she'd cherished, rose up like glittering fragments. But now, those same memories felt like knives. If she could burn them, if they were objects she could throw into a fire and watch blacken, she'd strike the match without a second thought. Year after year, she'd tried to forget. She failed every time. So she'd learned to push the memories far back, out of the daily light. And today, he brought them all roaring back. 3 years of work, gone in 3 minutes. Ding! Her phone chimed from somewhere on the covers. Even lifting an arm felt like a chore. She just wanted to sink deeper, to let the mattress swallow her whole. With a groan, she reached for it. A message from a buyer on her brother's account, asking about a commission. She stared at the screen, thinking for a beat, then nodded to herself. Distraction was better than crying over the past. She swiped away fresh tears with the heel of her hand and typed a reply. Only then did it register. She was crying. God. Crying over Liam. Disgust prickled at her skin. The anger turned inward, hotter than anything she felt for him. She refused to sit with that feeling. She got up, crossed to her desk, and forced her focus onto the design in front of her. Whatever happened was the past. It didn't get to run her life. In a few months, she'd fly back to Sioux City with her family, her son, her brother. They were what mattered. Next morning, Amanda stretched, basking in the warm sun slanting through the window. Birds chattered outside, bright and insistent. She'd worked all night, and yeah, she was sleepy. But resting now wasn't an option. The cold breath of morning air helped a little, even though her stomach felt barfy. She ignored it. Routine would carry her through. She tidied her desk, set her tools in order, then headed for a quick shower before the office. The hot water didn't help. If anything, unease crept under her skin. Heat flushed her cheeks, her body begged for rest. She shook it off. It's fine, just a passing thing. I'll feel better at work. A glance at the clock sent a jolt through her. Late. She hurried, stuffing what she needed into her bag. Her vision smeared. The room tipped. She reached for the table, missed. The world spun once, twice. Then darkness closed in as she crumpled to the floor. As usual, Ray strolled into the office whistling, the picture of weekend cheer. Mornings were his favorite, especially weekend mornings, when he could catch Amanda already at her desk. A warm smile, a bright good morning. The coffee she brewed just right. What could be sweeter than that? Good morn. He stopped short. Her office was empty. He checked the sign on the door, as if he might have wandered into the wrong place. Number right room. He flagged down an employee in the hallway. Have you seen Amanda this morning? Oh, she hasn't arrived yet. Do you need anything, sir? I can take care of it until she comes. He didn't hear the rest. Unease twitched in his chest. It wasn't unusual for someone to be late, but something felt off. His frown deepened as he glanced toward her office again. Sir. He blinked, refocusing. Just bring me a cup of coffee. He waved it off like nothing. She nodded and left. He tried to turn to his emails, but his eyes kept drifting back to that empty doorway. A knock broke the spell. Come in, he said, schooling his face into neutral. She set the coffee down. He gave a small, distracted nod of thanks. Has she called? He asked too quickly. I don't think so, the employee said. Honest, apologetic. Ray worried at his lower lip. He took a sip he barely tasted. An idea sparked. By any chance, do you know Amanda's address? He kept his tone light casual. He didn't have her Ridgeville address, only Sioux City. She has an important document for today's meeting, he added, throwing the excuse out like a life raft. The woman thought for a second, then nodded. I do. Excellent. The word came out too loud. His palm smacked the desk before he could stop it. He cleared his throat, trying to pretend he hadn't just done that. She jotted the address down. He barely waited for the door to close before he grabbed his keys and bolted. The worry was chewing holes in his calm. He hit the parking lot at a jog, slid into his car, and took off. Amanda floated in weightless dark. No edges, no pain, just the soft hush of nothing. Bang, bang, bang. The sound dragged her up from the deep. She blinked, the ceiling swimming into focus, and pushed herself upright. The clock on the wall, oh God, late. She let out a breathy sigh and braced on the wall, steadying her legs. Ray was going to tease her to no end. She crossed the room carefully and opened the door. Ray stood there, fist raised mid-knock, jaw set, like he'd been ready to break the door down. "Sir," she gasped. "Oh, good, you're still alive." Ray exhaled hard and stepped inside. Amanda understood enough of his words to feel a hot flush of embarrassment. Cheeks burning, she closed the door, cleared her throat, and walked back to him. "I apologize for the sudden absence. I was about to call you," she murmured, gaze lowered. She couldn't bring herself to look up. Ray smiled and took her upper arms gently. The moment his fingers brushed her bare skin, he felt the heat rising from her. "You are burning up," he breathed, alarmed. He pressed his palm to her forehead to be sure. He was right. She peered up at him with tired, innocent eyes as if nothing at all was wrong. "I'm fine. It's nothing," Amanda said, laughing it off as she took his hand from her brow. She held a small smile, waiting for his reply. Ray said nothing. A frown dug in. He battled the urge to scoop her up and lay her down. "No, don't force her." Finally, he set a steady hand at the small of her back and guided her toward the bedroom. "Sir," she tried to resist, but his quiet strength won out. Only after tucking her into bed did he exhale, relief loosening his shoulders. He checked her forehead again, still burning. "Where's the first aid kit?" he asked. Amanda gasped. "There's no need." He didn't budge. A narrowed gaze, silence. She wilted and pointed toward a drawer. He shook his head, a soft smile tugging at his mouth, and fetched the kit. He poured water, pressed a pill into her palm, then stood over her like a watchful parent until she swallowed. Only then did he sit in the chair by the bed. Amanda bit her lip and looked away. Guilt pricked at her. He was so busy, and she was making trouble. "I'm sorry for the trouble," she whispered at last. Her eyes lifted to his. The apology there cut him to the quick. Did she really think of him as a stranger after all these years? Had it never once crossed her mind that she could lean on him? Just a little. He loved her. God damn it, he does. Heat climbed his face, his brows tightening like a fuse catching flame. "You are not a trouble," the words scraped out, his voice unsteady. He drew in a breath. He stopped, glanced at her puzzled expression and sighed. He couldn't hide it anymore. The feeling stung his chest, dragging him under. "I like you," Ray said in a rush, eyes fixed on the floor. His heart wasn't ready to hear what he feared. Amanda faltered. His confession stunned her, but she already knew her answer. "I liked you from the moment I saw you, and then, deeper, the more I learned. The way you are, the way you look. Everything pulled me in," Ray went on, cutting off her attempt to speak. At last he looked up. She sat frozen, wide-eyed. Gathering courage, he took her warm hand. A small, sun-bright smile touched his lips. "I love you." The 3 words landed between them. Amanda stayed silent. No hint of emotion, just her gaze reading every flicker on his face. She was terrified to speak. He couldn't read her. And since he was already this deep, he chose to go all in. "I want to be with you. And if fate allows, maybe even your husband one day. I want to care for you. Love you without limits." He searched her face, hoping anything. She drew a slow breath and looked down at their hands. She hesitated, bit her lip. I don't know what to say. A thin, nervous smile, a hard swallow. "Ray." Soft, calm as always. It pleased him to hear his name on her tongue, until he realized it was the first time. Dread swept in. He knew what was coming. "You're a great person, and I'm lucky to know you, and luckier to know that you like me. But I've never thought of you that way. You'll always be my friend, but I don't think it can be more. I'm sorry." She gently slipped her hand from his. Ray went quiet, eyes dropping. After a few minutes, he looked up at her again with a practiced smile, as if nothing had happened. "You should rest. Take the day off. I shouldn't disturb you more." He stood and left. Amanda wanted to stop him. But he was already gone. A few days later, from her window, Amanda stole a glance at the man in the next office. She sighed, replaying that night in her apartment. The next day, he behaved as if nothing had happened. He talked to her like always. The normalcy only sharpened her guilt. When she tried to bring it up and apologize again, he answered calmly, with a mischievous smile women would die for. "You rejected me, but I never said I'll stop pursuing you." She'd groaned at that. She tried over and over to make him give up, but he brushed her off or changed the subject every time. She was in her cabin, still searching for the right words, when a knock sounded. She looked up, and there was Ray. Her eyes widened as she shot a glance from him to his office across the way. He'd been working as if nothing in the world could touch him, and now he stood in her doorway, brow creased. "You okay?" "I'm fine," Amanda said, shaking her head. "Good, because I need you to come with me to the market. Help me buy things for my new house." He hopped up to sit on the corner of her desk. She hesitated, then nodded. He rose, almost boyish with excitement, and offered the way like a gentleman. In truth, he didn't need anything, but if she was skittish around him, maybe a little time out together would help. At the market, the crowd moved in a gentle tide, everyone minding their business. Amanda looked around like a child let loose, eyes bright, head turning. Ray trailed her from stall to stall, smiling at her innocence. After a while, she realized how far she'd wandered from why they were there. She craned her neck. There he was, right behind her, patient as ever. Heat crept up her neck. "I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself," she said, sheepish. "It's fine," Ray said, waving it off. He didn't mind at all. Watching her like this made his heart tingle with hope. "Though, you never told me what you want to buy," Amanda asked, tugging him back to reality. "Huh?" He blinked, caught. In truth, he wanted nothing, but now he had to stick the landing. "Oh, nothing much, just a sofa for my drawing room." He rubbed the back of his neck with an awkward smile. Amanda chuckled and nodded. "What are you two doing here?" A familiar voice cut in from behind. Her face went pale. She knew that voice. Ray flicked his gaze toward Liam. Liam was closing in slow, steady, with a stare cold enough to send a chill down anyone's spine. Even Ray felt it. Still, he turned back to Amanda. She was ghost pale, her pupils blown wide with a fear he'd never seen on her face. Liam stopped at their side and ignored Ray completely. His eyes locked on her. A hot surge of anger rose in him, a wild urge to smash everything near him. Even her. How could she flirt with another man when she had a child and a husband waiting at home? When did she become like this? 3 years ago, she wasn't like this. He clenched his fist to cage the fury. His gaze narrowed. "Looks like you don't love your child and husband as much as I expected," he said, a mocking smile tugging at his mouth. Amanda's eyes flew wide. She looked up, straight into that cold, icy glare. A shudder ran through her. Those eyes were the same as 3 years ago, the same cold, disgusted look he wore when she told him about their child. That look had branded itself into her mind, into her soul. It squeezed her heart until the air wouldn't come. She wasn't the old Amanda anymore. She wouldn't stand there and swallow his nonsense. Old Amanda might have loved him. This Amanda felt nothing but hate. She scoffed and folded her arms. "Defaming, is it?" Her voice was calm, cold. She lifted a brow and held his gaze. No fear, no warmth, just ice. It irked him. He scoffed back. "How is it defaming if I'm just saying the truth?" She bit the inside of her lip, bitter and hot with anger. "Fine. If that's how he wanted to play it." Said by someone who can't even stand up to his mother, Amanda shot back, smooth and sharp. A coward shouldn't target the innocent just to feel powerful. She didn't know where the courage came from, only that it was there. In 3 years of marriage, he'd been a servant to his mother, obeying every word. At first, she thought it was respect, but there's a difference between respect and cowardice, and he was clearly the second. That did it. The leash snapped. He lunged in and clamped a hand around her throat. Amanda winced. Pain flared. But she'd come too far to back down now. "Don't bring my mother into this." His voice was cold, too calm. That was what terrified her. Not rage, ice. His eyes grew colder by the second. Amanda kept her gaze fixed on his, even though she was scared to death. Or what? The words leapt out before she could stop them. Even she couldn't believe her voice. She didn't let it show. Liam's jaw flexed. His grip tightened tighter. He swore to the Lord he couldn't control himself anymore. He wasn't in his right mind. "Both of you stop," Ray burst between them. He snapped Liam's hand off Amanda's neck. Air rushed in. Amanda doubled over, coughing, gasping, clawing for breath. Ray shot Liam a hard glare, then turned to Amanda. She was clutching her throat, coughs racking her chest. He rubbed her back in steady circles until the spasms eased. When she finally stopped, Ray faced Liam again. Liam stood rigid, fists clenched so tight his knuckles blanched. Ray stepped in, apologized to her. Straight to the point. Thank God they were behind a shop, no one around to see it. Liam glanced at Amanda. She was still catching her breath, pain flickering in her eyes. His anger burned hotter. Apologize? The last thing he'd ever do. What she said, it was enough to make him lose control. She hadn't just disrespected his mother, she'd killed their child without hesitation. And then, what? She'd married someone and had their child, and now she was openly flirting with Ray. Shameless, disgusting. Why should I? Ask her if she doesn't have a husband and a child waiting at home. And here she is, shamelessly flirting with another guy who is none other than... The slap cracked across his cheek. Both men froze, stunned. Liam's eyes dilated. Of all people, he couldn't believe she'd slapped him. But her jaded eyes weren't filled with disgust. They were filled with sadness. The sight of it clenched something in his chest. Amanda said nothing. She turned to Ray, who looked just as baffled. "I forgot I had something to take care of. I'd like to leave if you're okay with it, sir," she said softly. She tried to smile, and failed. Ray saw how shaken she was. He sighed and nodded. Amanda didn't wait another second. She left. Liam's mouth opened. No sound came out. He stood rooted to the spot, empty-handed and silent. When she was gone, Ray faced him. "How could you defame someone like that?" he blurted. Liam frowned. He'd said it already. How many times did he have to repeat himself? Ray wasn't sure why Liam was so adamant. He knew Amanda wasn't married, no boyfriend either. He'd asked her more than once, and the answer never changed. A child, though, he'd never asked. Why would he? If she was single, why ask if she had a child? "And what if I'm telling the truth?" Liam asked, lifting a brow. Ray rested his chin on his knuckles, thinking, "How can you be so sure?" "Because I heard her talking to a child who called her mommy," Liam snapped, impatient that his friend didn't believe him. Ray didn't lash back. He crossed his arms. "And the husband, did you hear her say she has one?" Silence. No, Liam hadn't. He only remembered her saying "Daddy" on the phone. Ray's shoulders dropped. "See, dude, you have no proof. I don't know what happened between you two in the past, but right now I'm trying to pursue her. I love her, and I know she doesn't have someone in her life. What if she has a child? Then I accept both of them." "What if she has a child?" Liam asked again, irritation edging his voice. Ray shrugged, calm. "Then I accept them both." It sounded so simple coming from him, as if Amanda having a child changed nothing. He loved her, and that was all. Liam hissed, unhappy with the answer. He couldn't tell if it was Ray chasing her, or the idea that his friend's heart was big enough to accept another man's child. That set his teeth on edge. "Don't regret it later, I warned you already." He grumbled the words, then turned on his heel and stormed off before Ray could reply. He was too furious to act normal. If he stayed, he might do something he'd regret. He tried, but he couldn't untangle his own emotions. He knew she no longer belonged to him. Yet the thought of her being with someone else made his blood boil. Ray exhaled when Liam left. He knew Amanda was single, but a child. If that rumor was true, how would he persuade his family to accept her, even if he already had fear shuddered through him? But he pushed it aside. That was the future. He'd face it when it came. After leaving them, Liam drove downtown to a bar. The last thing he wanted was to think about his ex-wife. The thought of her having a kid with another man. God, it made him want to burn everything, ruin it. He knew he had no right to say a word, but he couldn't accept that she might choose someone else's child over theirs. Was she that disgusted? Humans are ironic, he thought. We forget what we did, and when tragedy hits, we blame everyone but ourselves. He forgot the way Amanda had cried, had begged him not to go through with the abortion. But the storm in his chest let him blame only her, not himself. Maybe deep down he knew, but pride wouldn't let him admit it. He knocked back his whiskey and let the old memories flood in. How good it had been. Now they were strangers, if only he could have another chance. Another life, if only they were not. He thought of the day her mother broke the news to him and shook his head. He stared up at the ceiling, the lights blurring, and whispered, "Why?" By the time he realized, he'd emptied more than a bottle. Too late. He laid his head on the counter and drifted off. In his dream, she smiled at him. Radiant, intoxicating. That smile made him want to devour her. But she walked away. He reached for her, begged her to stop, and she only moved further. "Liam." A sweet, melodic voice called his name. His eyes fluttered open. The blur sharpened, her face above him jaded, familiar. Desperate, he yanked her closer, wrapping an arm around her, nuzzling his face into the crook of her neck and shoulder. "Amanda, why did you do this to me?" he asked, sobs catching in his throat. "Why did you have a kid with someone else? But you killed ours. Why? Do you know every day felt like hell after you left? I missed you every day." He lifted his head to look at her. She said nothing, just watched him, and desire surged. He knew it wasn't right, but he couldn't stop. The love he'd buried down deep clawed its way back. He leaned in, palm cupping her cheek, the other hand drawing her by the waist. Their faces hovered inches apart. His warm breath grazed her skin. As he drew closer, the world snapped into focus, and shock ripped through him. He jerked back, shoving the woman away. He slumped onto his stool, pressing his forehead to his arm. He couldn't believe what he'd almost done. He cursed himself. He'd been about to kiss Eve of all people. Why her? Eve straightened and came back to him, a brittle calm smoothing her face. As if his rejection weren't enough, he cried over that woman again. 3 years and Eve had been the one here, not Amanda. But the man in front of her never saw her. Not once had he offered the warmth she craved. She had stood through his pain and his joy, always at his side. All she wanted in return was his love. Was that too much? What did Amanda have that she didn't? Men desired Eve, women envied her. She was a rich heiress, her father the mayor. What didn't she have that Amanda had? Liam. Eve's voice trembled, her eyes raw and shining. "Leave," he growled. She went still, then nodded. Without another glance, she turned and walked out. She refused to let him see her tears. It was her fault, she told herself, greedy, selfish. Just once, she'd wanted to know what it felt like to be loved, even if he wouldn't remember in the morning, and she'd failed. She sank into the back seat of the car, fighting the tears. The rain drummed on the windshield, and that steady patter broke her last bit of control. Through the glass, she watched the downpour while tears tracked over her pale, flawless skin. The driver glanced back, then thought better of it. He knew her temper. He said nothing and waited. "Go to Helena's house," she ordered between soft, ragged sobs. By the time they reached Helena's, dusk had settled, and the rain had finally let up. Eve stepped out and rushed inside. She burst through the door. Helena stared at her, puzzled. Eve didn't care. Breathless, she managed. "Amanda has a child. Amanda has a child," Eve blurted, panting hard. Hands on her knees, she fought for breath. She tried to hold it together at first, but the words ripped free anyway. Across from her, Helena choked on her tea. She set the cup down with a clatter, eyes wide and watering as she coughed. "What?" Helena cried, springing to her feet. She strode to Eve. "What are you talking about?" She grabbed Eve by the arms and shook her hard. Pain pinched up Eve's shoulder. She bit back a cry. It felt like her arm would rip from its socket if Helena kept going. Wrenching free, she stumbled to the sofa and sat. Her face folded, heartbreak tight in her mouth, as she bit her lower lip. "I'm not sure," the words trembled. A small sob slipped out despite her trying to swallow it. "Liam told me she does." Tears spilled as her fingers fussed with the fringe of her dress. Helena exhaled and sat beside her, palm moving in slow circles between Eve's shoulder blades. Eve collapsed into the touch and clung to her, breaking down like a child. Helena didn't speak. She just stroked her back, steady, patient. In Helena's mind, numbers and dates flicked by. Was the child Liam's or not? She had made sure Eve kept no contact with Liam, or any of them. And just when she'd thought Liam would finally marry the girl she'd chosen for him, Amanda came back. Now, this a child? No. Helena abruptly eased Eve away and stood, something decided in her gaze. Without a word, she turned and headed to her room. Eve stared after her, confused. The shift rattled her. Was Helena angry with her? No, Helena spoiled her. It couldn't be that. She scrubbed at her cheeks, waiting. But her mind dragged back to Liam's voice. Every time he spoke Amanda's name, the sound stabbed her chest. It should have been her name, her place. What spell had Amanda cast to make him look only at her? Eve's nails bit crescents into her palm. Found it! Helena swept back in, a paper in hand, and a satisfied grin stretching ear to ear. She dropped onto her seat and held the page out. Perplexed, Eve took it and unfolded it. Her eyes blew wide. She looked at Helena, then back at the paper. A slow, incredulous smile bloomed. Then she shot to her feet. "You?" Words failed her. Joy and shock tangled together. "Yeah, I kept a copy of the hospital papers." Helena leaned back, crossing one leg over the other, confidence slanting through her posture. "It's not Liam's." An ugly little scoff curled her mouth. "As expected, she's a slut, already carrying another man's kid. Good thing I cast her out." Helena folded her arms, disgust sharp in her eyes. Eve let out a shaky breath, relief loosening her chest. She sank down beside Helena, but her thoughts veered elsewhere, to Liam. Even knowing the truth, he still cared for Amanda. The ache spread. Why her? Why? The thought of it ignited her fury. 3 years ago, Eve had thought Amanda gone for good, so why claw back into their lives now? If Amanda had stayed away, Eve would have stayed quiet. But now she wanted everything Amanda had to crumble. She'd see Amanda ruined, completely. Eve rose and murmured an excuse, a plan taking shape like black ink in water. She went upstairs. Leaning beside the tall French window, she dialed a number. The line rang, then clicked. A vicious smile tugged at her lips. "I have breaking news for you. Since you're calling a humble peasant like me, it must be juicy," the voice on the other end joked. "Yes, it is. Very juicy." Eve's tone was cool. "The heir of our real estate corporation is allegedly having an affair with a single mother." "Oh my. Now that's news. Isn't he engaged?" the reporter asked, his interest sharpening, scenting a scoop. "Our real estate might not be as massive as Ridgewood real estate in Ridgeville, but in Sioux City they were equals." The families kept their ties quiet, yet everyone knew the heirs were close friends. Rich. Striking. The most wanted bachelors in town, two princes ruling the same industry. Any story about them was gold. They kept their lives clean and private. Landing a scandal like this could launch a career. "Yes, he is. And the single mother is his own secretary," Eve spat. She wanted Amanda broken, and she'd drag Ray down with her if that's what it took. Not her fault. He'd chosen that vile woman, even dared to insult Eve in public. They'd all forgotten who she was. Not this time. She wouldn't listen to Helena anymore. She'd listened enough, and lost enough. Now she wanted revenge. She wanted Liam hers, and only hers. She'd do it her way. She'd ruin that bitch, and pry her away from her Prince Charming. "I'll make sure it runs first thing in the morning," the reporter said, barely containing his excitement. "Good. If not, you know what will happen." Eve's voice turned calm and cold. He wouldn't let a chance like this slip. She ended the call and looked out at the night. The storm had passed. A thin moon hung clean and bright. Her charming smile sharpened, dark with anticipation of dawn. Enjoy your last night, Amanda. I'll make sure hell comes to you, she whispered, eyes gleaming. The fun begins now.